Socrates, the father of Western philosophy, stressed self-knowledge and rigorously examining our beliefs. He believed that true knowledge came from questioning assumptions, a method known as the Socratic method. Building on Socrates' work, Plato posited his theory of forms, suggesting the existence of perfect, eternal ideas that underpin the imperfect world we perceive. These forms, like the perfect form of a chair or justice, represent ultimate truths. Aristotle, a student of Plato, diverged somewhat, focusing on empirical observation and logic. He made invaluable contributions to logic, ethics, and political philosophy, emphasizing virtue ethics, achieving happiness through the cultivation of moral character. Moving forward in time, Epicureanism emphasized the pursuit of pleasure as the highest good, but it wasn't about hedonistic indulgence. Instead, it focused on the absence of pain and mental tranquility, a balanced and serene life. In contrast to Epicureanism's focus on pleasure, Stoicism advocated living in accordance with nature and focusing on virtue while accepting what we cannot control. This acceptance of fate aimed at inner peace and resilience. The rise of skepticism challenged the very possibility of certain knowledge. Skeptics questioned the reliability of our senses and the ability to achieve absolute truth. Medieval scholasticism attempted to reconcile faith and reason, notably through the work of Thomas Aquinas, who sought to integrate Aristotelian philosophy with Christian theology. Socrates, a pivotal figure in ancient Greek philosophy, didn't leave behind any written works. His ideas, however, profoundly shaped Western thought, largely through the accounts of his students, most notably Plato. Central to Socrates' philosophy was the unwavering belief in the paramount importance of self-knowledge. He famously asserted, "Know thyself." This wasn't a mere platitude. It was a call to rigorous introspection, a deep dive into the complexities of one's own mind and character. He believed that true happiness and a virtuous life stemmed from understanding oneself, including one's strengths, weaknesses, and values. This pursuit of self-awareness, however, wasn't passive. It demanded active, critical examination. Socrates employed a method known as the Socratic method, a process of questioning and critical analysis designed to expose inconsistencies and falsehoods in beliefs. This involved engaging in dialogues, often with those who held strong opinions, systematically probing their claims through a series of carefully crafted questions. The goal wasn't to simply win an argument, but to arrive at a clearer, more accurate understanding of the truth, even if it meant challenging long-held convictions. This relentless pursuit of truth, through self-examination and rigorous questioning, became a cornerstone of his philosophy, shaping how we approach knowledge and understanding even today. The Socratic method, even in modern times, still teaches the importance of questioning assumptions and biases. It continues to foster critical thinking and intellectual humility. It's a testament to the enduring relevance of his ideas that his emphasis on self-knowledge and critical examination of beliefs remains crucial for personal growth and societal progress. Socrates' legacy serves as a constant reminder that true knowledge starts not with accepting received wisdom, but with the courage to question and the humility to learn. Plato's theory of forms posits the existence of a realm of perfect, eternal, and unchanging ideas or forms. These forms are not physical. They're abstract concepts representing the truest essence of things. For instance, there's a form of beauty, which is the ultimate standard against which all beautiful things are measured. A beautiful sunset, a beautiful painting, and a beautiful person all participate in this form, sharing some aspect of its perfection, but falling short of complete embodiment. This theory contrasts sharply with our experience of the physical world, which Plato saw as imperfect, changing, and merely a shadow of the true reality of the forms. He believed true knowledge comes not from sensory experience, but from grasping these forms through reason and intellect. Understanding a form provides a deeper understanding than just observing its physical manifestations. The forms are also seen as the basis for morality and ethics. Justice, for example, isn't just a societal construct but a form that exists independently and serves as the ultimate standard of what is just. This connection between forms and ethics means that true moral action is based on understanding these perfect ideals. The challenge lies in bridging the gap between the imperfect world we inhabit and the perfect realm of forms, a life guided by the forms, according to Plato, is the path to true fulfillment. The implications of this theory stretch far beyond the realm of philosophy, influencing everything from art and aesthetics to political thought and the pursuit of justice. It presents a compelling picture of reality, albeit one that is difficult to access directly. Aristotle, a towering figure in ancient Greek philosophy, made monumental contributions across various fields. His impact on logic is undeniable. He formalized deductive reasoning, establishing the structure of syllogisms that underpinned logical argumentation for centuries. This rigorous approach to reasoning laid the groundwork for future advancements in logic and continues to inform our understanding of valid argument construction. Beyond logic, Aristotle delved deeply into ethics, proposing a virtue ethics framework. Instead of focusing on rules or consequences, he emphasized the importance of cultivating virtuous character traits. He identified virtues as character traits that lie at a mean between two extremes, for example, courage being the mean between cowardice and recklessness. This nuanced approach to moral development highlights the significance of personal character in ethical decision-making. Further extending his philosophical reach, Aristotle explored political philosophy extensively. His work on politics and governance examined different forms of government, analyzing their strengths and weaknesses, advocating for a constitutional system as the most stable and just. His ideas about citizenship, justice, and the role of the state have profoundly influenced political thought and practice. In essence, Aristotle's contributions form a holistic system of thought, intertwining logic, ethics, and politics, and offering a compelling vision of a flourishing human life built upon reasoned thought, virtuous character, and just governance. His emphasis on virtue as the cornerstone of a good life continues to resonate, shaping modern discussions on ethical conduct and personal development. Epicureanism, at its core, isn't about hedonism in the typical understanding of the term. It's not about chasing fleeting, intense pleasures, but rather about achieving a state of lasting well-being. The Epicureans saw pleasure as the ultimate goal, but they defined pleasure as the absence of pain, both physical and mental. This tranquility, this freedom from distress, is the true essence of the Epicurean good life. It's about cultivating a mindset that minimizes suffering and maximizes inner peace. Achieving this state requires careful attention to our thoughts, desires, and interactions with the world. They emphasized friendship and community as crucial for achieving this tranquility, believing that strong social bonds help alleviate suffering and provide support in challenging times. Epicurus and his followers believed that understanding the natural world is vital to eliminating unnecessary fears and anxieties. Studying nature, they believed, revealed that the universe is governed by natural laws, not arbitrary whims of the gods. This understanding diminishes the fear of the unknown, leading to a more serene state of mind. This philosophy also advocated for moderation in all things, avoiding extreme desires or attachments that lead to disappointment. By carefully managing our desires and expectations and focusing instead on simple pleasures, we can build a life that avoids undue turmoil and leads to a serene and fulfilling existence. The concept of ataraxia, a state of freedom from mental disturbance, is central to this philosophy. This isn't simply the absence of negative emotions, but a positive state of mental calmness and serenity. This is achieved through self-awareness, careful thought, and a disciplined approach to life. Rejecting unnecessary pursuits and focusing instead on genuine human connection and contentment. Epicureanism encourages a reasoned approach to life, promoting a lifestyle focused on simple pleasures and genuine human relationships, all leading to a reduction of pain and the cultivation of lasting mental tranquility. Stoicism emphasizes living in harmony with nature, a concept encompassing both the external world and our inner selves. It's not about passive resignation, but active engagement with life, guided by reason and virtue. Central to Stoic philosophy is the understanding that some things are within our control, our thoughts, judgments, and actions, while others are not. External events, the actions of others, even our own health. Focusing our energy on what we can control is key. This means cultivating inner strength and resilience through virtue, which Stoics see as wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. These virtues aren't abstract ideals, but practical guides to living a good life. Wisdom allows us to make sound judgments, justice ensures fairness in our dealings, courage enables us to face challenges with fortitude, and temperance promotes moderation and self-control. By practicing these virtues, we aim to live in accordance with nature, accepting what we cannot change and focusing on our responses. This acceptance isn't about giving up, but about recognizing the limitations of our control and finding peace within those boundaries. It's about developing a resilient mindset that allows us to navigate life's inevitable ups and downs with equanimity. The goal isn't the absence of hardship, but rather the ability to meet it with strength, reason, and a focus on what truly matters: our inner state and our commitment to virtue. Stoicism offers a path toward inner peace and freedom, not by changing the world, but by changing our perspective on it, finding contentment in what we can influence, and accepting the rest with grace. It's a philosophy of mindful action and acceptance, a way of living that encourages us to find strength and tranquility in the face of adversity. It urges us to live virtuously, to act justly, and to cultivate inner peace amidst the chaos of the external world. This path, while challenging, offers a profound sense of freedom from external pressures and a greater appreciation for the present moment. Skepticism, a philosophical tradition stretching back to ancient Greece, fundamentally questions the possibility of attaining certain knowledge. Philosophers like Pyrrho of Elis argued that because our senses can deceive us, and because our reasoning can be flawed, we can never be absolutely certain about anything. This challenge to the foundations of knowledge had profound implications. If we can't be certain about our beliefs, what does that mean for our understanding of the world and our place within it? Does it lead to nihilism, the belief that nothing matters? Or does it instead force us to adopt a more cautious and nuanced approach to knowledge acquisition? The impact of skepticism varied throughout history. In ancient times, it often manifested as a way of life, emphasizing tranquility and acceptance rather than the pursuit of definitive answers. Later philosophers, particularly during the Enlightenment, attempted to reconcile skepticism with the burgeoning emphasis on reason and scientific inquiry. They sought to find a middle ground, a way to acknowledge the limitations of human knowledge while still valuing the pursuit of truth through careful observation and rational analysis. However, the core challenge of skepticism, its insistence on questioning the very possibility of certainty, remains relevant today. Modern science, while incredibly powerful, acknowledges the provisional nature of its findings, the constant possibility of revision and refinement in light of new evidence. This inherent humility, born from a recognition of the limitations of human perception and understanding, is a direct legacy of the ancient skeptics. Even seemingly unshakable beliefs, our convictions about morality, politics, or even our own identities, may be reconsidered and reshaped as we gain new perspectives and experience life's complexities. In essence, skepticism serves as a constant reminder of the provisional and evolving nature of knowledge, prompting us to remain open to new ideas, critically evaluate our beliefs, and ultimately, pursue truth with humility and intellectual integrity. Medieval scholasticism represents a fascinating chapter in intellectual history. It was a period where thinkers grappled with the seemingly irreconcilable perspectives of Christian faith and classical reason. This wasn't about choosing one over the other, but finding a way for them to coexist harmoniously. A key figure in this endeavor was Thomas Aquinas, a 13th-century Dominican friar. Aquinas's monumental work, the Summa Theologica, is a testament to this intellectual fusion. He meticulously sought to demonstrate that reason and revelation, faith and logic, weren't at odds but rather complementary paths to understanding God and the universe. Aquinas didn't simply accept Scripture blindly. He analyzed it critically, using Aristotelian logic and philosophy to explore its tenets. For instance, he employed Aristotelian concepts of causality and natural law to explain the existence and actions of God, providing philosophical underpinnings for theological doctrine. This wasn't just abstract theorizing. The implications of Aquinas's work were far-reaching. It impacted the structure of theological education, shaping how religious dogma was understood and defended. His synthesis provided a framework for addressing complex theological problems using both religious texts and rational thought, influencing generations of theologians and philosophers. His ideas, particularly regarding natural law and ethics, continue to resonate in contemporary discussions about morality and justice. The scholastic approach, exemplified by Aquinas, fostered a rigorous intellectual climate within the Church. It emphasized systematic reasoning and argumentation, setting a high standard for intellectual inquiry and debate. While scholasticism eventually gave way to other intellectual movements, its legacy endures as a testament to the possibility of meaningful dialogue between faith and reason, shaping the future direction of both theology and philosophy. The Enlightenment, a pivotal period in European history, championed reason as the primary source of authority and legitimacy. Thinkers like John Locke profoundly impacted the course of Western thought by emphasizing individual rights, particularly the rights to life, liberty, and property. This emphasis on the individual, a sharp contrast to the prevailing social structures of the time, laid the groundwork for modern democratic ideals. Central to Enlightenment philosophy was the concept of the social contract, a theoretical agreement between individuals and their government. This contract, argued thinkers like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, established the mutual obligations between the governed and those who govern. Rousseau contended that legitimate government arises from the consent of the governed, a notion that directly challenged the divine right of kings and emphasized popular sovereignty. The emphasis on reason also led to significant advancements in science and technology, as thinkers questioned traditional beliefs and sought to understand the world through observation and empirical evidence. This commitment to rational inquiry fueled the scientific revolution and laid the groundwork for modern scientific methodology. The Enlightenment's focus on individual rights and the social contract profoundly influenced the American and French revolutions, shaping the development of modern democratic societies. The emphasis on human rights and the need for a government accountable to its citizens remains a central theme in political thought and action today. These ideas continue to resonate, fueling ongoing debates about individual liberties, the role of government, and the relationship between the citizen and the state. The ongoing struggle for equal rights and just governance is, in many ways, a direct descendant of the Enlightenment's enduring legacy. The principles established during this era continue to shape contemporary discussions about justice, freedom, and the fundamental rights of individuals within society. The legacy of the Enlightenment, therefore, is a complex and far-reaching one, influencing not only political systems but also intellectual and cultural landscapes across the globe. Kant's transcendental idealism posits that our experience isn't a direct reflection of reality, but rather shaped by the inherent structures of our minds. These structures, which he called categories of understanding, organize our sensory input into meaningful experiences. We don't passively receive information. Our minds actively construct our understanding of the world. Think of it like this. We don't simply see a chair. Our minds interpret the sensory data as a chair based on pre-existing mental frameworks. This idealism doesn't deny the existence of a thing in itself, a reality independent of our perception, but it asserts that we can only ever know the world as it appears to us, shaped by our cognitive processes. This is crucial to understanding his ethical theory. Central to Kant's ethics is the categorical imperative, a moral principle that dictates how we should act. Unlike hypothetical imperatives, which command actions based on desired outcomes, if you want to be healthy, eat your vegetables, the categorical imperative applies universally, regardless of personal desires or consequences. It takes several forms, but one crucial formulation is the universalizability principle. Act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. In simpler terms, before acting, ask yourself, what if everyone did this? If the resulting world would be illogical, contradictory, or undesirable, then the action is morally wrong. For instance, lying is immoral because if everyone lied all the time, trust would break down, and the very concept of lying would become meaningless. The categorical imperative isn't about consequences. It's about the inherent rationality and consistency of the moral principle itself. Kant believed moral actions spring from a sense of duty, driven by reason and respect for the moral law, rather than self-interest or emotion. This is the core of his deontological ethics, a system where the morality of an action is determined by its adherence to duty, not its outcome. Therefore, acting morally is about following the categorical imperative, even if it leads to unfavorable results. The moral worth of the action lies in the intention to act according to duty, not the actual result. It's a framework for moral decision-making emphasizing consistency, universalizability, and respect for rational beings as ends in themselves. Utilitarianism, at its core, is a moral philosophy focused on maximizing overall happiness and well-being. It's a consequentialist theory, meaning the morality of an action is judged solely by its consequences. The best action, according to utilitarianism, is the one that produces the greatest good for the greatest number of people. This greatest good isn't necessarily about individual pleasure. It encompasses a broader sense of well-being, including factors like happiness, health, and freedom from suffering. Different forms of utilitarianism exist, such as act utilitarianism, which assesses each individual act based on its consequences, and rule utilitarianism, which suggests following rules that generally lead to the greatest good. A key challenge in applying utilitarianism is accurately predicting the consequences of actions. It's difficult, if not impossible, to fully anticipate all the ripple effects of a decision. Another critique involves the potential for the rights of minorities to be overlooked in the pursuit of maximizing overall happiness. The question of how to fairly balance the well-being of the many against the potential harm to the few remains a central debate within utilitarianism. The inherent difficulty in quantifying happiness and well-being adds another layer of complexity, making the calculation of the greatest good a subjective and potentially contentious process. Despite these challenges, utilitarianism remains a powerfully influential ethical framework, prompting critical reflection on how to make decisions that benefit society as a whole. Existentialism throws us into a world without inherent meaning. We're born, we live, we die, and there's no preordained purpose dictating our journey. This stark reality, often termed the absurd, is central to existential thought. It highlights the conflict between our yearning for meaning and the universe's apparent indifference. However, this absence of inherent meaning isn't a cause for despair, but rather a liberating force. Because there's no predetermined path, we're entirely free to create our own values and define our existence. This freedom, though exhilarating, carries immense responsibility. We are solely accountable for our choices and their consequences. There's no divine plan to fall back on, no external authority dictating our actions. Each decision shapes our identity, forging the very essence of who we become. The weight of this responsibility can feel overwhelming, especially considering the inherent uncertainty of life. We navigate a world filled with unpredictable events and subjective experiences, constantly confronted with the limitations of our knowledge and the inevitability of death. Yet, it is within this framework of freedom, responsibility, and absurdity that existentialists see the potential for authentic living. The challenge is to embrace the inherent uncertainty, to confront the absurdity head-on, and to create meaning through our choices and actions. This involves making commitments, forging relationships, and accepting the consequences of our choices, even when those consequences lead to suffering or failure. The existentialist project, therefore, is not about finding a pre-existing truth, but about actively creating our own truth through authentic engagement with the world. We are condemned to be free, and it is in the act of choosing, of creating meaning in a meaningless universe, that we find our true selves. Nietzsche famously challenged traditional morality, particularly Judeo-Christian ethics, which he viewed as life-denying and conducive to weakness. He saw these moral systems as prioritizing humility, self-sacrifice, and otherworldliness, values that he believed stifled human potential and the will to power. This will to power, a central concept in Nietzsche's philosophy, isn't simply a desire for dominance over others. It's a fundamental drive for self-overcoming, growth, and the creation of meaning. He argued that humans instinctively strive to overcome limitations, to expand their capabilities, and to assert their individuality. Traditional morality, he believed, suppresses this essential drive, fostering resentment and conformity. Nietzsche contrasted this slave morality, which he saw as born from weakness and resentment of the strong, with a master morality, which affirms life, strength, and self-assertion. The master morality, he suggested, values excellence, creativity, and the pursuit of personal greatness. However, It's important to note that Nietzsche's concept of the will to power isn't inherently selfish or cruel. It's about self-mastery and the creative expression of one's potential. He saw the creation of art, philosophy, and great achievements as expressions of this will to power. He didn't advocate for brute force or the subjugation of others, but rather for a self-affirming life lived to its fullest potential. Nietzsche believed that by overcoming conventional morality and embracing the will to power, individuals could transcend the limitations imposed by societal norms and create their own values and meanings. This self-creation, he argued, was essential for achieving a fulfilling and authentic existence. Ultimately, Nietzsche's critique of morality was a call for self-overcoming and the creation of a life that affirms rather than negates the inherent power and vitality of human existence. He envisioned a future beyond the constraints of traditional moral systems, one where individuals could freely express their potential and create their own meaning in a world without preordained values. This didn't imply nihilism, but rather a creation of new values based on the affirmation of life itself. Postmodernism profoundly altered our understanding of truth, knowledge, and power. It challenged the Enlightenment's emphasis on objective truth and universal reason, arguing instead that truth is relative, contextual, and constructed. Knowledge, in this view, isn't a neutral reflection of reality but a product of power dynamics and social forces. This means that dominant narratives and perspectives often shape what we consider knowledge, marginalizing alternative voices. Power structures, rather than being transparent or easily identifiable, become subtle, dispersed, and embedded in language, discourse, and culture itself. Think about how historical narratives are written. Often the victors get to tell the story. Postmodern thought highlights this inherent bias, urging us to examine the power relations woven into seemingly objective accounts. The very act of defining knowledge becomes a power play, a way to establish dominance and control. This isn't to say that all claims to knowledge are equally valid. Rather, it emphasizes the importance of critical analysis and awareness of the underlying biases and power structures that shape our understandings. Postmodernism encourages us to question narratives, to seek out diverse perspectives, and to recognize the inherent limitations of any single, definitive truth. We must acknowledge that our knowledge is always partial, always situated within a particular context. It pushes us to engage in ongoing critical inquiry, constantly evaluating and reassessing our understanding of the world. This questioning isn't just academic. It has far-reaching implications for social justice, political action, and the way we engage with different cultures and perspectives. The struggle for knowledge becomes a struggle for power, and recognizing this dynamic is crucial for promoting fairness and inclusivity. By understanding the power dynamics inherent in the construction of knowledge, we can work towards a more equitable and just society.